They've misled you all along. And now, the truth is finally surfacing. Dear Taurus, understand this. It's not the truth that causes you pain. It's your resistance to the upheaval it brings. Right now, there are many Taurian souls sitting in darkness, not because they lack strength, but because they are waiting for a light of true stability to emerge from within themselves, not from anyone else. You have shown steadfastness, you have waited patiently, and you have held on to what felt familiar and secure. Perhaps you've wondered if it was all just a figment of your imagination, a way to preserve your peace. But today, your soul can no longer ignore what has been evident for far too long. The truth you are about to encounter is not meant to break you. Instead, it's here to liberate you from the invisible chains that have bound your spirit to a false sense of security across lifetimes. In the wisdom of Buddhism, this moment represents karmic revelation. In the light of Christ, it's the instant when truth breaks through. No lie can remain hidden once the time has come, and beloved, that time is now. This is the moment your soul finally awakens to the reality of who was sent to challenge your foundations and who was destined to awaken you through that very unsettling hurt. Have you ever felt a deep sense of unease, a tremor in your usually solid ground, only for you to choose silence, to try and maintain the status quo instead? If you have, I invite you to share that invisible sign you once sensed. You may not be the only soul who has traversed that shadowy path of clinging to what was. And now, if you're ready, let's return to where it all began. Not where the deception took root, but where your soul, in its deep need for stability, allowed it to enter like a divine wake-up call. Dear Taurus, you once believed this pain marked the collapse of the world you so carefully built. But sometimes, the first place light enters is through a crack in a seemingly solid foundation. You may find yourself amidst shattered pieces of what you trusted, scattered memories of security, unanswered questions, and a storm of emotions caught between steadfast love and doubt, anger at the betrayal of your trust, and the faintest hope that perhaps you were mistaken. Yet your intuition about what is truly sound and dependable has never steered you wrong. If your heart has stopped feeling peace, it's not due to your sensitivity. It's because something within your core need for security has become profoundly misaligned. You've sensed it in their inconsistent responses, in their avoidance of your steady gaze, and in the way they forgot commitments you could never let go of. Perhaps they didn't lie with words, but their silence and lack of solid action became a betrayal in its own right. They ceased to share their plans, to build with you, and you began to feel like a stranger in the very bond you once thought was your bedrock. You forgave time and again, convincing yourself, I just need to be more patient, more understanding. You believed love equated to acceptance and that people could change, that stability could be rebuilt. But love doesn't mean erasing boundaries of self-worth, nor does forgiveness entail sacrificing your own well-being to cling to something that no longer feels authentic or secure. Maybe you see yourself as the victim. They hurt you, and you remained loyal and steadfast. But if we take a step back and view this through the lens of the soul, where right and wrong fade away, you might realize this. Sometimes, those who shatter our sense of security are the very souls chosen to awaken us to our own inner strength. In Buddhism, this is karma ripening, a sacred unfolding that occurs when the soul is finally ready to confront a lesson it once fled from, fearing the instability. And in Christian faith, God doesn't cause your pain. He allows it because He sees the resilience and true inner foundation you will discover on the other side. So, what if the one who betrayed your trust isn't the villain, but rather the soul who once promised yours, "I will shake the foundations you clung to so that you'll remember who you truly are and how truly self-sufficient you can be." It's challenging to accept, but a part of you, the practical Taurian, already knows this. That's why, even amid the pain of a crumbling world, you haven't harbored relentless hatred for them. Deep down, your soul understands. This wasn't merely heartbreak, it was sacred. This was a pivotal moment. We often expect those who enter our lives to protect us, to provide security, and to love us tenderly and reliably. Yet frequently, the ones meant to leave the deepest marks on our souls arrive disguised as sources of hurt to our established comfort. Only when the heart's carefully constructed walls crack open can the light truly enter. Only when your faith in another's ability to provide your security dissolves can you learn to trust your own soul's capacity to build anew. You recognize the signs. You heard the whispers of instability, but you silenced them because your heart still believed they could change, that your unwavering love alone could make them stay and be reliable. But the reality is, people don't just lie with their actions. They lie with their absence, with their inconsistency, with the moments they weren't there when you needed assurance, the promises they left unspoken or unfulfilled, the gazes they couldn't meet with integrity, and the spaces they left you alone in silence, especially when your soul needed to be seen and valued. How many times did you sit beside them, yet feel utterly alone, your foundations shaking? How many times did your heart reach for theirs, for that solid connection, only to find emptiness staring back? You're not losing your mind, you're waking up to the truth you've denied for too long, just to hold on to something, a semblance of stability that has already slipped away. You're awakening to the realization that you've given your trust, your loyalty, and your patience without ever pausing to ask, am I truly receiving the security and respect I deserve in return? You're coming into the sacred truth. Not everyone knows how to love with a steadfast soul, and not everyone possesses the courage to be honest and build truly in love. Deceit isn't just found in their actions. It's in the silence when you craved clear commitment, in the distance when you needed reliable closeness, and in the vague responses when all you longed for was clarity and certainty. You've endured it all for far too long, but your endurance has not been in vain. It has brought you to this pivotal threshold where your soul is done enduring what undermines its peace. A new, stronger boundary is forming. A new voice within you is emerging, not from fear of loss, but from an awakening to your own worth. You are no longer someone striving to salvage a relationship that offers no real security. You are now the keeper of your own inner peace and stability. This is the first sacred love you have ever given, the love you are finally offering to yourself. Do not regret trusting them. Trusting someone is the purest, most steadfast gift your heart could offer. The mistake was theirs for not knowing how to cherish and build upon it. They entered your life to remind you it's time to reserve that sacred gift for those whose souls can truly hold it and reciprocate with genuine commitment. Dear Taurus, the Buddha once said, "No one hurts you, you only react to illusions. The greatest illusion is believing you must cling to what has already departed from your need for genuine stability. Christ, in his gentleness, said, "The truth will set you free." Sometimes that freedom arrives as a wound, a shattering of the old. You are being set free, sweet Taurus, not through a door that opens outward, but through a door that unfolds from within. You are stepping into a rebirth, a sacred transformation where you no longer beg for security from others. You become it. No longer clinging, but choosing. No longer enduring, but moving forward in gratitude for the lessons learned. And the one who hurt you? They no longer hold the power to define your stability or worth. They will become a chapter, important, necessary, unforgettable, but no longer your foundation. You were once there with a heart full of devotion and expectations of permanence, loyal beyond reason. But now it is time to walk away with a heart that still loves, but no longer loves blindly, no longer sacrifices its own need for genuine security. The truth that is rising now is not meant to judge anyone. It is meant to help you finally see yourself clearly as strong and wiser than what you once accepted in the name of peace. You were never ruined. You are being awakened to your own inherent strength. An awakening is the most sacred gift a soul can receive. You've seen it, haven't you? The pain didn't come to punish you. It came to help you see yourself and your true needs more clearly than ever before. But there is another truth, more subtle, more painful, and perhaps more awakening. It isn't that someone tried to hide the truth from you. It might be that you chose to close your eyes, not out of naivety, but because you had invested so much in building something you believed was sacred and lasting, and you feared its collapse. Dear Taurus, there's something beautifully steadfast about the way you love. You don't love with fleeting fancy. You love with a heart full of faith in permanence and commitment. A kind of faith that allows you to see potential for stability in someone, even when the world has begun to see them as unreliable. And that's not because you're weak. It's because deep down, you carry the soul of a builder, a preserver of peace, someone who knows the value of security firsthand and cannot turn away from those still lost in instability, hoping to ground them. You saw the signs, didn't you? The widening distance, the change in their gaze, the way their embrace felt less real, less solid. You asked yourself, is something wrong with our foundation? And quickly answered, maybe they're just tired, maybe I'm just too demanding of security. But your intuition about true stability was never wrong. Taurian intuition is rarely mistaken when it comes to the bedrock of trust, not because it knows everything, but because it doesn't rely on superficial logic. It speaks through the body, through a gut feeling of safety or unease, and the soul cannot lie about its fundamental needs. So why did you stay? Why couldn't you confront what you've sensed for so long, the eroding ground beneath you? Perhaps it's because you've always been someone else's rock, believing that if you just waited long enough, loved hard enough, with unwavering loyalty, and forgave deeply enough, they would return to their commitment as well. You thought love was a form of constant construction, that your purpose was to hold someone or something together rather than let it go, even if it meant compromising your own peace. But Taurus, you were not born to salvage anyone at your own expense. You were born to love rightly, to build on solid ground. If love requires you to abandon your own need for safety and respect, that is no longer love. It is loss, an erosion of self. Inside you once lived a sacred mantra: they can change, we can make this work, this can be stable again. But that belief shifted from hope to an anchor, pulling you under into a sea of insecurity. You didn't stay because you were unaware. You stayed because you couldn't bear the thought of losing faith in something sacred you had built, or losing the familiar comfort, however flawed. You've lived like this, not for a week, not for a month, but perhaps for years. You've loved as if trying to save a soul from their own hell, or a structure from its inevitable decay, and you did it quietly, steadfastly. No one knew. Only you and those sleepless nights, you and your silent prayers for peace and stability, you and the countless times you whispered, "I'm fine. It will be fine." The Buddha once said, "When the mind gives birth to illusion, the illusion blinds the eye." And Christ still whispers, "The truth will set you free." You've lingered too long in that twilight space where faith in their potential and the illusion of security blur, where your steadfast light was being poured into someone determined to resist true commitment. Slowly, you forgot your own voice, your own non-negotiable needs. You disconnected from your intuition, that sacred compass gifted to every Taurian. You began to believe their stories, their excuses, more than the gentle, firm whisper of your own soul demanding genuine security. You closed your eyes, not because you didn't see, but because you couldn't bear for the truth to shatter something you had built with so much love and dedication. Some people enter your life not to love you, but to illuminate the parts of you that you have abandoned, like your non-negotiable need for true, reciprocal security. That person wasn't sincere, not to break you, but to awaken you, to show you this. If love asks you to pretend, to be silent about your needs, to shrink your worth, then it's not love. It's a test of your self-value. You once thought that forgiving someone repeatedly, overlooking their unreliability, was strength, a testament to your patience. But forgiving someone too many times while neglecting to forgive yourself for believing them, for staying in an insecure situation, that's what drains your spirit. So now, forgive yourself for believing, for loving, for hoping for a stability that wasn't there. That's your first step home. Home to the you who used to shine with quiet confidence. The you who could hear her own voice clearly. The you who once loved with full faith without undermining her own well-being in the process. You should never feel ashamed for having faith, because loving with faith and steadfastness is not weakness. It is the most courageous thing you can do. Yet greater courage lies in knowing when to stop, when to open your eyes, and when to finally confront the truth, even if it means dismantling what you've built. You say, "I deserve a love that doesn't require explanation, a security that doesn't need constant defense. I'm not here to rescue anyone. I'm here to rescue myself from forgetting who I am and what I truly need to feel safe." They didn't change, not because you didn't love enough or weren't patient enough, but because they weren't ready to face the truth and the responsibility of true partnership. And you are. The truth is no longer distant. It stands right in front of you, demanding you acknowledge your own needs. And it's not something terrifying, it's an angel, one who has been patiently waiting for you to turn around, open your heart, and say, "All right, I see now. I see what I once refused to acknowledge because I feared the change." When you do that, when you dare to truly open your eyes to your own needs, you won't hate them anymore. You won't need to speak in anger. You won't need to play the victim. You'll simply nod and walk away. Not because the love is gone, but because your love for yourself, for your own peace and stability, has finally grown stronger. Not out of revenge, but because your soul no longer wishes to remain trapped in a lesson it has already learned. about what true security feels like. Not to prove anything to anyone, but because you are finally still enough to hear the voice within. The voice that was buried beneath 1,000 justifications for staying in an insecure place. That is the moment you begin to walk into the truth, not to claim you're right, but to finally be free, to finally build on solid ground. The moment your eyes open to your own needs, your soul begins to move. It no longer needs direction because the truth is already the light inside your heart, your new unshakable foundation. You've opened your eyes now. There's no more running from the truth, no more clinging to something, to a false security that was already slipping away. But there is another truth, quieter, softer, still waiting for you to return. Not everything you know came from the outside. It wasn't something someone told you. It wasn't even a specific act that awakened you. It was you. You always knew, deep in your Tauran core. You've known for a very long time. You just weren't quiet enough to listen. Too busy trying to maintain a precarious balance. So let's return now to the place where your ancient intuition, the sacred gift of your Taurian soul, your deep sense of what is truly sound, has never stopped whispering. Dear Taurus, there are things you've known for years, not because anyone told you, but because the quietest, most grounded part of you always knew. But knowing doesn't mean you were ready to listen, and listening doesn't mean you were prepared to accept it, especially if it threatened your comfort zone. Perhaps the most painful aspect of this journey was not that they were dishonest with you, but that you weren't honest with yourself, that you ignored the signs your soul sent you about the lack of true security, just to preserve something your heart no longer felt safe in. You saw the signs, a strange distance, a glance that avoided your steady one, a message that left a quiet ache of unease in your chest, a recurring dream like a ghostly warning of instability or simply the exhaustion you couldn't explain whenever you were near them. Your energy drained from constantly trying to shore things up. You felt something was off, not aligned with your need for reliability. You didn't need proof or reasons. You felt it because you are Taurus. You don't live by logic alone. You live by feeling, by a deep sense of what is solid and trustworthy. And your feelings weren't born from insecurity. They were echoes from a soul that has seen this before in another lifetime, a wisdom about what endures. Your intuition is ancient, not something born in this moment, but a gift from the many lives you've lived, where you were betrayed, where you forgave, where your foundations broke, and where you rose to rebuild. But that intuition was buried under love, under sacrifice, and under a compassion that led you to believe that if you were silent, if you were patient, if you didn't make a scene, everything would be okay, the stability would return. But what happens when you always listen to others and stop listening to yourself, to your own deep need for genuine security? When you try to understand them but forget to understand you? You may call that kindness, that patience, but the truth is, it was abandonment of your own core needs. The most dangerous betrayal is not the one done to you, but the one you inflict upon your own intuition, your own need for a safe foundation. The Buddha said, "The mind leads all things. What arises in your mind becomes the shape of your world." When you continuously ignore what you know to be true about your security, the mind births illusions of stability, and those illusions blind you from the truth. But Christ said, "I have written the truth on your heart." How can you read it if you never pause to listen, to feel what is truly solid? You were silent when they avoided your gaze. You smiled faintly, even as your heart was crushed by a careless word. an irresponsible action. You told your friends it was fine while crying alone that same night, not because you didn't know, but because you weren't ready for what you already knew, for the dismantling it would entail. But truth doesn't leave. It simply sits quietly, waiting for the day you are still enough to hear it whisper again, strong enough to rebuild. You've known all along, haven't you? Now you just need to accept it. Don't punish yourself for taking so long. Don't think you were foolish for loving, for waiting, for hoping for permanence. You weren't foolish. You were simply filled with light, the light of steadfastness and loyalty, so full of light that you wanted to shine it into the darkness of others' instability, hoping to ground them. But now, it's time for that light to return to you, to solidify your own foundation. Begin again. Believe in your strong soul one more time. Believe in the dream of true, reciprocal security. Believe in your feelings. Believe in that moment when you walk into a room and the air shifts and you feel it even if no one speaks a word, that sense of safety or danger. That's not being sensitive, that's being connected, a sacred connection between you and the unseen world where all truths about what is real and lasting exist without needing to be expressed aloud. Truth doesn't hide in explanations. It isn't waiting in text messages or apologies. It lives in the light within you, a light that has been aching to shine again after being veiled by the fog of sacrifice and compromise for far too long. You don't need to interrogate anyone. You don't need to force anyone to confess. You only need to confess one thing to yourself. I know, and I will no longer deny what I know about my own needs for security and respect. From that moment on, you no longer need to seek the truth, because you are the truth, a soul that no longer doubts her own voice, a woman who no longer tries to rescue what has already departed from the path of true stability, a light rising, brilliant and steady from an old wound, from a foundation that crumbled. And when you finally dare to listen to that truth inside you, a new question begins to emerge, not from your mind, but from your blood, from your lineage, from a deeper calling. Could this be more than just your story? What if you're carrying an old wound, a pattern of settling for less than true security that was never just yours to begin with? Come with me. Step into the place where your ancestors and your soul meet and begin to heal together. Dear Taurus, have you ever wondered why you keep attracting the same kind of people who undermine your stability? Why do your wounds concerning trust and security seem to echo through every relationship, no matter how different the faces may be? It's as if you're caught in a cycle, drawn to familiar patterns of giving your steadfastness to those who cannot reciprocate, patterns that feel both comforting in their familiarity and painful in their outcome. You might think this is just your story, but what if I told you that this pain, this pattern of tolerating instability, might not belong solely to you? What if you were born into a lineage of unspoken burdens, where the women and men before you endured silently, sacrificing their joy and true needs to maintain a semblance of peace or to uphold a structure? You may carry the weight of their unresolved struggles for security, their fears of upheaval, and their silent screams for genuine respect. In this moment, recognize that you are not just living for yourself. You are here to break those cycles of settling. You are the one chosen to speak the truth that was never voiced about what true, lasting security means, to bring light to the shadows of compromise that have lingered for generations. In Buddhist wisdom, this is known as collective karma, a shared burden that transcends time and space. You are here to transform that energy, to rewrite the narrative of accepting less that has been passed down to you. You might see patterns in your family where your grandmother endured an unstable situation. Your mother went silent in hers, and now you stand at the crossroads, ready to choose a different path toward solid ground. You are not alone in this ache for true stability. Your ancestors are watching over you, whispering encouragement, urging you to break free from the silence and the pattern of tolerating what doesn't truly nourish or secure you. It's time to declare, I will not carry this burden of insecurity any longer. I deserve to be heard, to have my need for steadfastness met. I deserve to be loved fully and reliably without sacrificing my truth or my peace of mind. By saying these words, you are not just healing yourself, you are liberating every soul that came before you who settled for less, allowing them to exhale a breath of relief. You may think you're simply leaving a relationship or changing a dynamic, but in reality, you are stepping out of a structure that has imprisoned souls in silence and false compromise for generations. You carry the light, not the light of the world, but a light of resilience and strength passed down through lifetimes, through suffering, through quiet prayers whispered in the dark for a safe haven. You may feel weary, you may have wanted to give up, you may have cried out, "Why, God? Did you leave me here alone in this instability? Why must I endure this without anyone to understand my deep need for security?" But the truth is, God understood all along. He didn't pull you from the fire because He knew you were the only one strong enough to walk through it and emerge to build something truly solid. And when you walk through it, you don't just save yourself, you liberate every soul that has ever burned in the silence of an insecure existence. You are not a victim. You are the heir of light, of enduring strength. You are not the one left behind. You are the one entrusted to lead the way toward authentic security. And no, you don't need to do something grand. You don't need to be famous or perfect. You only need to stop accepting what no longer feels right, what doesn't offer true, reciprocal stability. You only need to pause and choose the light of your own worth. In that simple, sacred choice, you fulfill a piece of your divine mission. None of us came here by accident, and no connection in your life was ever random. Everyone who enters your life carries a message, a role, a reflection of something your soul needs to see to build a stronger foundation for itself. The one who hurt you, who shook your world, may have been the final mirror, one that revealed what has been passed down for generations, a tendency to tolerate instability for the sake of perceived peace. You don't need to hold on to them. You only need to understand why they appeared. Then you are free to walk away, with gratitude, with light, and with the knowledge that you are not just someone who has been healed, but someone who is healing all who came before by choosing true, self-sourced security. If you've already seen the truth, if you've had the courage to stand, to choose light, and to say no to what no longer aligns with your need for stability, then now there is one last door waiting for you to open. That door doesn't belong to them. It doesn't hinge on their change or an apology that never arrived. It lives within you, in one decision to forgive. Forgiveness isn't about erasing the memory of how your trust was broken. It's about returning your soul to peace, to its natural state of calm. Dear Taurus, you don't need an apology to let go, because forgiveness was never a gift for them. It was always a gift for you, for your own serenity. I know some wounds feel etched into your skin, into your very foundations. You can't forget how they stepped back at the very moment you needed them to stay, to be solid. You can't forget the moment you gave your whole steadfast heart and were met with silence, inconsistency, or betrayal. You can't forget their eyes when they lied, or their coldness when your world was crumbling inside. But you still tried to smile, to maintain composure. But forgiveness doesn't ask you to forget. It doesn't require you to erase every memory of the instability. Forgiveness simply asks you to no longer allow that pain, that sense of being ungrounded, to hold power over your life, over your present peace. In Buddhist teaching, the Buddha said, holding on to anger is like holding a hot coal with the intent to throw it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. It's the unspoken anger, the resentment for the lost security that keeps hurting you the longest. You've lost sleep, wondering why. You've lost trust in those who came after. You've lost pieces of your own steady self, trying to understand what made them act that way, to make sense of the instability. But eventually, you realize that even knowing why doesn't lighten the weight in your heart or restore what was lost. The moment you let go is the moment you come home, not to them, but to yourself, to your own inner sanctuary, to the peace you once had before that wound ever formed, before your secure world was shaken. You don't need to forgive to reconcile. You don't need to forgive to excuse what they did. You forgive because you deserve a soul that no longer carries rage or the heavy burden of past insecurity, because you don't want to carry this pain into another lifetime, because you don't want to pass it on to someone who might one day love you with pure intention and offer genuine stability. You want to move forward, even if the door to the past never closes perfectly. You only need to let go of the handle and walk away towards a future built on your own terms. In Christian faith, God doesn't wait for us to be perfect before He loves us. He forgives because forgiveness is light, is release. And you, Taurus, you are light, a beacon of strength and endurance. You were not born to carry someone else's darkness or instability. You were born to choose yourself, your peace, your true security, again and again. Every time someone wounds your spirit, shakes your foundation, forgiveness is choosing yourself once more. No one said it would be easy, and you don't have to do it all at once if your heart isn't ready. But please hold this prayer close. When I am strong enough, I will forgive. Not because they deserve it, but because I deserve to be free, to be at peace, to feel secure in myself. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful acts of all. Not because it changes others, but because it brings your soul back to wholeness, to its natural state of calm strength. You've come so far. You've walked through the pain, through the truth of instability, through the light and the dark. And if there is one last gift you can offer yourself on this journey, let it be release, not for them, but for you, for your heart. The heart that has broken, that has stayed silent while enduring, that has held on so tightly to what was familiar, now deserves to breathe and to whisper, I forgive, not to forget, but to keep living, to keep building a life of true peace. Dear Taurus, you are no longer the one who was hurt by instability. You are the one who emerged from the darkness with a light of resilience born from within. You have seen the truth. You have heard the voice of your intuition guiding you towards genuine security. You have chosen to rise, to rebuild, and now you are learning to let go, not because they are worthy, but because you are worthy of peace and a solid, joyful life. God sees you. The Buddha hears you. Your ancestors smile at you. And you You are beginning a new chapter, lighter, truer, brighter from within, built on an unshakable foundation of self-love. If your heart is beginning to glow with this newfound strength, write down one thing you're ready to release as a sacred ritual just for your soul. I'm here with you, and so is the light. Thank you for staying until the very end. Thank you for having the courage to listen to yourself with me today. I wish you peaceful sleep, mornings without heaviness, and a path ahead that feels lighter and more secure, where you walk with a heart no longer bound by past insecurities, but grounded in its own unwavering strength.